Simon from the Height with Mike Foundation, and for the latest version of our recorded interviews, I'm joined today with a gentleman who's been on a similar sobriety journey to myself. He's 18 months sober, living his best life. Recently got involved with the Height with Mike Foundation community and involved with the hikes we do as well as receiving some of the support. Tom, over to you. Would you like to introduce yourself, and we'll get into it?
Yeah, good to see you, Simon. Yeah, I'm Tom, and as you say, it's been great. We've been on a similar journey. I'm 18 months sober now. I work in advertising, so come from an advertising background, kind of. I suppose with alcohol is kind of inherently used in that kind of industry.
Yeah.
You know, if anyone's seen Mad Men or what have you, it's got a very big stigma attached to it, but it's not that far off. But yeah, so that's my kind of background, and I'm a contractor and have started my journey with alcohol and sobriety about 18 months ago.
Nice. Well, I wanted to get you on for a chat because I've always been envious of your sobriety journey. I think you've just been to demonstrate a lot to anyone watching as to what is possible if you apply yourself. But if we just sort of roll it back, when did you first sort of realise you had a problem with alcohol?
It's a big question, isn't it? Because I suppose with alcohol, it's almost like everybody else realizes before you do. So I think if I'm truly honest, and certainly what my journey has been so far is honesty is the key to everything, and kind of unlock all of that. I don't think you can get sober without being honest. It's always been there as an issue to mask kind of history, and we'll go into that, I guess, a bit as we go through. But in terms of when it really hit home to me, was probably when I could see it maybe starting to encroach slightly into my daughter's kind of life, if you like. Not that she was ever affected by it or anything like that, but I just didn't want to be that dad, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And yeah, other areas were, you know, it's kind of said if alcohol's costing you more than the price of a drink, then you're probably an alcoholic. And it was definitely doing that already. And I just hit a point where I didn't want it to become any worse, and I didn't want that to affect my family life really any more than it already had. So
yeah, no, I can relate to that. And I think for me, I was always the one I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the party side. I enjoyed the social element that came with it, the football, the laughs, the pub after work, everything that was seen on the outside as the fun part of alcohol. It was when I realised that, like you said, it was taking more away from me. It was suddenly it was becoming less sociable. It was all of a sudden it was becoming hiding it from other people, lying to myself about it, lying to friends, family, loved ones. And when that started to sort of really ramp up, it was obvious that there was more of an issue than I thought. And I think it's important to say it's a scary thing to give up because it's such a big part of your life.
And it's everywhere. You know, you don't get away from it necessarily. No. It's
You probably advertise for it, do you?
Yeah, I have worked as well, before, which is ironic, but yeah, thought that was the best gig in the world. But yeah.
What were you most scared of or fearful of when you decided to go on the journey? What was the hardest thing and the scariest thing for going sober for you?
As in trying what was the hardest thing about giving up alcohol, or what was I most scared of going into it?
Yeah, good. More, what were you most scared of going into it?
That I probably couldn't do it is probably the most scariest thing. Prior to giving up 18 months ago, the longest time of sobriety I'd ever done was 5 weeks, ever, that I can kind of remember, really. And it's weird because you know, and this is why alcohol is so ingrained in what we do. Like from a child, you know, when at Christmas or what have you, it's kind of built up as, oh, have a sip of this, or, you know, it's kind of always there, isn't it, as a thing, alcohol. And I can't really remember my first drink necessarily. You know, people say, well, I remember my first drink really well. I don't. I couldn't tell you when my first one was. But I know it. I can't remember really the point which I wasn't using alcohol, if you know what I mean. There was definitely a time when I was regularly drinking, and so from not being able to remember your first drink to now and only having 5 weeks sobriety that you can really remember, and that was only because I had a heart attack.
Right.
So it was off the. I mean, it was luckily not a very bad heart attack, but it was still hospitalised and what have you, and enough to kind of make me question a lot of things. But even then, 5 weeks, and I, for some reason, I went back drinking. You know, I don't know why. So I suppose the scariest thing was, am I actually an alcoholic, and can I stop drinking? Because at that point, I didn't identify, if you like, as an alcoholic. So yeah, I didn't really know whether I could do it or whether I was an alcoholic, really. So scary in that sense. You?
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't mean to laugh at the fact you had a heart attack. I appreciate that. No. I was laughing more at the insanity of it and where it takes you to a point of you can't imagine a life without drinking. It's this minor inconvenience of a heart attack is what put you on a pause for 5 weeks. And I had a similar experience, I guess. I've not had a heart attack, touch wood. But things like dry January and Stoptober, they were always really, really counterproductive for me. And I think it was a case of I think I tried it probably 3 or 4 times. I think I knew I had a problem with alcohol, probably from my mid-20s. So I always enjoyed drinking. Then into my mid-20s, it was probably when I recognised that other people weren't drinking in the same way I did, and to the same effects. So I tried things like dry January to prove to myself. But they were always a case of do 30 days or 31 days, and then all of a sudden think, I can't have a problem because I managed to do that. And then make up for lost time in February, because it's like, well, I've just proven a point to everyone there that I'm not an alcoholic, or I've not got an issue with alcohol. Same, and the whole way through, and as you go into a recovery journey, you sort of learn how to manage it. It was a case of white knuckling that. It was just getting through, just counting down the days, not really. And doing a 12-step program more recently in my life has made me realize why. But it's a case of just getting through the days and not learning how to live without alcohol. You're just literally pressing the reset button. Saying that, I know there are companies out there and organizations out there for the likes of like Alcohol Change, where they promote such things, and they're great for a grey area drinker or perhaps a heavy drinker who hasn't got an issue with alcohol. So I don't want to say they're not for anyone, but I just think if you are, for me, I had a serious problem with alcohol, and it wasn't for me. It probably was counterproductive. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
Yeah, I would. I think it's interesting because with the Stoptobers and, you know, dry January and what have you. Yeah, dry January, I tried that a few times, probably didn't make it through January. Ironically, when I took the decision to go, right, that is it, I am done with alcohol, I used September as it wasn't Stoptober, it was whatever the September, Stop September or whatever.
Stop September,
yeah, let's go with that. I used September as the kind of excuse almost to everyone else, you know, to anyone who would know me as a drinker or what have you. I'd be like, yeah, I'm not drinking for the month. And then it was like, oh, okay, well, it's October now, the Stoptober, I might as well carry on through that. But really, that was, isn't it ridiculous that I was fabricating reasons to why I was stopping drinking to other people, and not owning that. I don't know, it's an odd one, but yeah, I think all of these things have their place, and for people,
Yeah,
I think giving up alcohol for a short time for anyone is a good idea. You know, have that break, because that glass of wine after a day's work has just become ubiquitous, hasn't it? It's like everybody does it or has done it, and it becomes so accepted, I think, alcohol in our day-to-day lives, and it certainly had with me. I mean, even with my career, we joked that through with all of my colleagues, really, that we as an organization or an industry were just professional alcoholics.
yeah,
It was just, we got paid for doing it, so that was all. It was, if we weren't out entertaining or yeah, whatever, just using alcohol in some way, we were just better at drinking because we've been doing it longer and more often than anyone else. But
yeah.
that's not a good thing.
No, no, I can really relate to that. I've worked in the recruitment industry and sales industries all my life, and it's exactly the same. It's all incentives are drink related,
Yeah,
all perks of the job, drinks in the office, drinks after work, welcome drinks, leaving drinks, um, holiday incentives, all based around drink. It makes you the odd one out to not drink. So that again for me was a huge barrier to stopping. It was everywhere I went. It was my social
yeah,
life, it was my work life, and I used it as an excuse for like not stopping, probably for years, that it is what was required in the role, and I probably fabricated that to it was required for me in the role, and it was an excuse of I would then top up any drinking that was done from work, but it was always there to kickstart the drinking. So no, I definitely think that's very true. Your job, your industry have effect, but I don't think it's an excuse. I think it's still
no,
anyone can get out of it, and it is more common nowadays across any industry. It's not like it perhaps was when you and I were starting out in those industries.
yeah.
So yeah, have you got any advice for anyone that works in an industry that is heavily uh, based around alcohol, influenced around alcohol, and if they're perhaps just starting out on their sober journey?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's culture kind of based a lot of the time, isn't it? And the drinking culture within work and that environment, which you kind of touched on. However, I think now more than ever, it's more acceptable not to drink. People are choosing not to drink, not necessarily because they have a problem with alcohol, but it's a healthier lifestyle, and people are monitoring what they intake in all sorts of areas of their life with food and protein and it's very much analyzed now and is more acceptable in those kind of ways. That I'm a vegetarian, I don't drink alcohol, I do,
Yeah,
it's allowed almost more. So I think own it as your own identity as much as possible, and don't feel that peer pressure, because you don't. There are more people that don't want to drink than you realize.
yeah,
I think more and more people will join you on that. Certainly, as it's definitely something I've noticed as I've become sober and don't drink. As soon as I say I'm not having an alcoholic drink, somebody else will soon say, "Oh, well, okay, yeah, I
yeah.
won't. I'll have this or that."
That's
It,
something that's become massively apparent to me, perhaps in the last 6 months, is not most people don't care, and I think
yeah,
because you've lived your life of being drinking in excess and perhaps having an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, it's at the forefront of your mind is, oh, everyone's going to know I'm not drinking, or why am I not drinking? And the majority of people do not care, and it makes no odds to them. And like you say, they're there for the conversation and the social element of it. And if you're having a Coke and they might have a Coke, it literally doesn't matter. And it was definitely something that I seasoned overthinker, something that was always played on my mind. And yeah, I think early sobriety really was something I cared about, and now it's I just don't notice it at all. So I think
Yeah,
it's a massive case of getting out of your own head and not
definitely.
which leads me on nicely actually, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions around sobriety, and you said you had your own fears. I think from talking to you over the 18 months we've known each other, it's become apparent that both our lives have got less chaotic and better. But
Yeah.
I mean, what would you say are the biggest misconceptions around sobriety, or what's sort of shocked you the most about your journey?
Misconceptions about sobriety or alcoholism, because I think there's two
I think
different.
sobriety first.
Okay. Misconceptions about sobriety being it's boring.
Yeah,
You know, that I can't live my life and have fun like I used to, because obviously I can't have fun without alcohol. You know, that's a common misconception. Or that I can't go out with friends, or you can't go to these events or do these things. You know, you absolutely can, and guess what? You'll have a much better time doing it.
yeah.
And you know, you will you will also feel a lot better very quickly as well. It's amazing how those how alcohol affects the body and mind. It's insane. But in terms of a common misconception, that you will lose friends, um, I think that is true to some extent. You will always have your drinking buddies, and you have fair weather friends. I think you do. I've noticed that. I've lost friends in the process, you know, that only meet up for a social event that is around drink. So it's not. I wouldn't say it's a misconception, but it's true. But you gain better friends because of it, and you deepen relationships because of it. Um,
See, that's something you hear a lot of about the losing friends, and I agree to an extent. But I think I've made more friends. I've
mm,
secured better relationships with friends, wife, family, all all as a result of going sober, and mainly all due to the fact that I feel more content in myself. I feel more honest to other people. I can look people in the eye without an overwhelming sense of anxiety running through me that everyone knows I've been drinking or I'm drinking or hungover. And that just relationship piece for me is probably the strongest and the best thing that's come out of the whole last the sobriety time period.
yeah,
Um, and you do, yeah, you might lose the person that you spoke to in the pub, but for me, drinking wasn't social anymore. I'd become isolated, trying to sneak it. It would become sneaky, doing it on my own, not enjoying it. So, what a lot of people see as an issue, I think, is actually the best thing.
yeah, definitely. And also that the whole element of that's who I am. That I am the life and soul of the party, whether that be at a party or indeed at work or what have you. It becomes your identity in some respects, that you own that, or you are the person that turns up and the party can start, or you know,
Yeah,
people can relax now because you know that.
the
and
big I
and
am.
the big I am, and that comes down to, as you go through this journey. Well, as you say, I work a 12-step program, and that's more about giving up alcohol is one thing, but it's taught me basically the fundamentals of how to live life properly with, and how to live a life without alcohol, and uncover my defects. And part of that is the ego. The ego of I've arrived and I am
Yeah,
the big I am, you know, and you don't have to be that. And uh, people aren't necessarily expecting it either. It's just you're comfortable with that as an identity. So you can think, how am I ever going to live without that? But you do, and you become a better version of yourself. In all honesty.
yeah, no, nice, mate. And it's definitely been apparent from the outside watching you on that journey as well. So it's you're doing something right.
Yeah, and
Um,
you. It's been good.
yeah, it's been a good journey. Regarding the challenges, then, I mean, it's obviously we can sit here and say how great it is, and it's there have been challenges and there have been times when it's been tough. But what would you say have been the biggest, the most challenging times for you?
It's the firsts, isn't it? I think it really kind of plays on your mind. The first time that you have got to say to somebody, "I'm not drinking," or the first time that you go to an event, whether that be with family or friends or work or what have you. How do I get through Christmas without drinking? That was a big thing for me. Was how do I get through this whole period, and go through Christmas period with clients, and a drinking culture, and taking clients out for drinks, and being that person that essentially is there to get everybody drunk and have a good time. How do I navigate that? And I remember going through my firsts of all of those and being scared shitless about it, basically, of just, I have no idea how I'm going to get through this. But I think there are some practical things you can put in place to really help with all of those. And just having prepped your, and I know we've both been through these as well, because we've spoken about it in the past of, oh, I'm going to this, or what shall I do? And I think having a plan for your recovery rather than your relapse in that kind of scenario is always really good, of just, how am I going to make my excuse? If somebody questions me, what am I going to say? How am I going to explain this? But the truth is, like you say, you're a seasoned overthinker. We overthink everything. And just the fact of, why aren't you drinking? Just say, I just don't fancy a drink. Actually, people go, okay, cool, on to the next thing. It's not, but in your mind, you're overthinking it, and you've come up with a story that's somebody's auntie is throwing the, you got, before you know it, you're digging yourself a hole that you don't need to. And so the firsts were always difficult. The first wedding, the first this, or whatever.
Yeah, I think for me it was something I was very, very aware of for the first, and I think first Christmas wasn't too bad. First holiday was a challenge.
Yeah.
And I recall vividly now, one of the hardest time periods for me was actually the first England Euro football tournament. And all the others seemed quite, it was purely because there was no real alternative. Like, if you wanted to go out and watch the football, part of it, the atmosphere, and part of the event is like it being rowdy, beer getting thrown around, everyone sort of getting drunk together. The game might not kick off till 8 p.m., but the day starts from 12 p.m. and there's all that time. There's everyone's in the same spirit, and you just don't get the same atmosphere. I avoided that because being sober in that environment, you don't want to get warm carling thrown all over you and people jumping into you, hugging you. So, but that one caught me off guard a little bit. I wasn't expecting it to be so tough, and it was very clear that the football match was only 90 minutes, and previously there would have been 8 hours before and 90 minutes of football and 4 hours after. Was now all condensed, and you could actually do stuff with your day, and it was got a lot of time back there. So that one was one that I really noticed. One big topic
on that, I don't know, I suppose I was a bit different in that depends how alcohol plays its role in your life as well, and how it because from what I've learned as an alcoholic, not everybody's alcoholism is the same. No. My alcoholism is different to your alcoholism, and it's just we've got a commonality that alcohol plays a part in it. And some people can go to certain places that other people can't. So I've never had a problem since being sober going into wet places, so places that sell alcohol or what have you, pubs, bars, wherever. Some people absolutely can't. It'll be too triggering for them. They couldn't imagine going into that environment without having a drink. I don't have that, but other people do. And also, it's going to take a lot longer. You mentioning football then. People might not be able to do that at the start and be around that, or even I can smell alcohol a mile away now, and it's kind of, oh my God, I can really smell that. I got to stay away from it type
Oh my
thing.
God, how did people not smell it on me more?
Yeah, God knows. And they must have at some point. But you become a master of disguise. But yeah, so there's not everybody can do everything all at once, and there's certain things, just expect not to be able to do everything overnight. It's a process, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but yeah, so those are difficult. It's just finding out where you, in terms of the challenges, what is more challenging for you. Know that you are going to come up against some challenges. It's not an easy process. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do, give up alcohol, which is, I mean, it's a sad reality, but it is the hardest thing I've ever had to do because of my addiction to it, but also because of the access to it and everything else we've said in terms of how common it is and how surrounded by it that you are. So, the navigating those social situations were difficult. So in the early days, they were the big things.
Yeah. One thing that I guess splits opinion. Be interesting to hear your thoughts on this. I'm a fan of non-alcoholic beer, and I found that they've helped me navigate situations and scenarios where my stag do, for example, I was around a lot of alcohol there, as you can appreciate. Drinking non-alcoholic beer, it plugged a gap to fit in, and it meant that you could still experience it. What I've really noticed is that my early sobriety, I would drink non-alcoholic beer a lot more than I do now. Now, 18 months on, I can take it or leave it. I'll perhaps have one if I'm away after a hike with the Hike with Mike Foundation. I might have one then. Early days, I would be wanting to drink it, and I guess as a substitute for normal beer or something to fill that gap. Do you partake? Do you use it? Are you a fan? Are you not a fan? Or how have you found it?
Yeah. Controversial, Simon. Yeah. Yeah. No, I do. Yeah. And so yes, I drink non-alcoholic substitutes, but a bit like you, really, as and when, not more in the early days, like you, and less so now. Now, as I say, our alcoholism and our routines were different, but I unfortunately got to the stage of being a 24/7 drinker. So that's where it took me. So going from drinking 24/7 to get through a day and function to take it or leave it for a non-alcoholic is massive, with that, it comes the caveat, I suppose, and when I've spoken about it with other people, is it just depends on how you feel, how tempted you are with whatever you're drinking. So, for example, I could have a non-alcoholic beer, no problem. Wouldn't bother me at all. I would, but that comes with a few provisos. I get it myself, so I know 100% that it is alcohol free, and I'm not trusting anybody else with that kind of problem, because that could, could you imagine that? It would be horrific. Make sure I do it. Make sure it is only beer or something that isn't really triggering for me, because there are non-alcoholic red wines, for example, but there's no way I could have a non-alcoholic red wine.
No.
That would be too tempting for me. The taste of that would be, I might as well be drinking, and that would trigger me. That would be almost the same as my first drink.
Yeah,
stay away from the first. That's the hardest. Stay away from that first drink, because it's that starts the craving. And I think a non-alcoholic red wine would kickstart my craving again.
Yeah.
Whereas beer doesn't have that effect on me.
No, I agree, and I've also steered well clear of like non-alcoholic spirits. I don't really.
I don't get the idea.
I don't really see the point. So I think it's whatever works for you is key, isn't it? But no, it's always interesting. Another thing I quite passionate about is the concept of hitting rock bottom. And I think a lot of people put off going on a sobriety journey because, in their opinion, or their family's opinion, or anyone else's opinion, they haven't hit their rock bottom. And it's something that really winds me up. It's why do things have to get so bad before you can make yourself better?
Yeah.
And I think so many people hide behind it and use it as an excuse. And I guess you hear a lot of people say things like, "Oh, he's not ready yet. He's not hit his rock bottom," and it's almost like we give up on people in that sense. It's like, well, let's not let him hit his rock bottom. Let's not let it get any worse. And that's where I think, like with the counselling that we provide and the charity work, it's interfering with people before they demise into a further state of affairs and helping them on their journey.
Yeah.
But did you feel you hit your rock bottom, or do you feel like do you agree with me, or do you have
Oh no, I definitely agree. Yeah, definitely agree. I think so. I've now got to the stage, as of you, with kind of helping people along their journey now. So that comes back round. You know, I was helped in sobriety, and I'm a big believer that I've got to help other people now.
And you help everyone in sobriety.
Yeah, I do try. And but I am a believer. If you've had it given to you, the gift of recovery, you've got to give it back, you know, and help other people, pass that message on, and help other people. So, yeah, did I hit my rock bottom? Yes, I think so. Well, put it this way, I wouldn't have wanted it to get any further before I took it seriously, because everyone around me, my close family and my close friends, knew it was a problem.
Yep.
They were telling me it was a problem, had been telling me for ages. My wife had been telling me for months, years, not months. And I wouldn't have wanted it to get any worse, or any more in denial. Coming back to the point of I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
Everyone's got the same, or a similar, if you like, vision of what they perceive an alcoholic to be, which is an old guy stinking on a park bench somewhere. And in your head, you're kind of going, well, I'm not that. I'm not that bad, so I can't be an alcoholic. But that's not what an alcoholic is. There are alcoholics all around you every single day of the week. They don't know it. You don't know it. But they are. And so it's not, you don't have to conform to a particular look or anything like that. It's being, finding out yourself that it's a problem. And you raised a good question there of they're not ready yet. I've said that myself about other people that have kind of that I've tried to help. And why do I say that? Because you as an individual can know, it's true what they say. It's a stereotypical, you can't help somebody if they don't want to be helped. They've got to want this themselves.
Yep.
Because it's a bloody hard journey to go on. You do see other people coming in for other people, as in, I've been forced to come on this journey or start recovery because my wife's threatened me, or work has threatened me, or, you know, I don't believe a threat can get you sober, to be honest. You know, I think it's got to be I am desperate. I have reached my rock bottom, that I am desperate. It's been said to me before that I had reached the point of desperation, whereas when I came into my sobriety journey, I'd have done anything to get sober. I came in with that mindset of, I want to get sober. I'll do whatever it is that you need me to do to get sober. What is it? I'd a dog, you know, bark like a dog, or whatever it will be, you know, I'll do it. And the problem is, then when you say, I suppose, certainly for me, when I say they're not ready yet, I mean they're not ready to go to any lengths to stop drinking.
I think that's key, and I think I had external therapy, counselling from an alcoholism specialist counsellor, and he raised a good point with me, which it was really sat with me for a long time, was that I would, if I'd gone any lower, then he didn't think I'd have had it in me to have then stopped. So
Yeah.
it was a case of I hadn't lost my job yet. I hadn't lost my wife, now wife, yet at the time. Hadn't lost my driving license. I hadn't lost my family. But all those things would have come very, very quickly. And as a snowball effect, I think one would have probably acted as a catalyst for all of them. And at that point, I'm then in a situation where I've not got the fight or the reason to fight to come and to recover. And that's how so many people never recover from this illness. So I think for me, that's why I'm so passionate about it, is because I hear so many people using it as an excuse or wanting things to get worse and worse and worse before they get off the metaphorical elevator going down. So no, it's just really interesting. And I think you could argue that your rock bottom is when you are ready to go on the journey, and that is the key.
And
I think
you don't have to wait until you've lost absolutely everything, and you don't have to be that stereotypical vision to go on a sober journey. You don't have to tick those boxes, because like you just said there, it's just about it's coming. Ultimately, you will get there if you carry on like that. It'll be a different timeline for everybody, but it is inevitable, because that's how alcohol gets you. It gets its claws into you and drags you down with it, and you will lose everything. You will lose your license. You will lose your marriage. You will lose your friends. You will end up on that park bench, on that being homeless, and and you can get off before that.
No, absolutely agreed. Tom, hopefully you don't mind me saying that you have recently got involved with the Hike with Mike Foundation. You have recently received some of the counselling that we offer. How have you found the external counselling supported you in your sobriety journey?
Massively, massively helped. Through my journey, my journey started where it started with therapy for me. And so I was having therapy for about a year, I think, before I started getting sober. Had I not had that therapy before starting my journey, I think I would be in the camp of a serial relapser.
Okay.
Because fundamentally, I wouldn't have addressed some of the issues underlying why I drank in the first place, if that makes sense. So without that knowledge and being furnished with that, dealing with that, and kind of unpacking all the bits of trauma and stuff that I've bottled up over years, would just keep bubbling up, and it would have ultimately ended up in a relapse.
Yeah.
But you find people are serial relapsers, can't get past a particular point, or you hear the term a dry drunk a lot of the time is, yes, you're not drinking, but really you've still got the mindset of an alcoholic. You've not moved past that. You've not addressed some of the issues. You've not come to terms with the fact that of life. This is how you get through it. And that's what I say, my 12-step program has enabled me to do that. So therapy was the biggest part for me, because I stripped myself right down to and broke myself before I could rebuild myself. So and only then was I said to my therapist, I said, now I'm ready to attack my sobriety. I've got to get a hold on my alcoholism. So I took a break from therapy, threw myself into sobriety and my journey there. Once I'd hit a kind of a year sober, just over a year, I've then gone back to therapy with the help of the Mike Foundation, and it's been a massive help. Because just because I'm sober doesn't mean my problems go away, or doesn't mean I've addressed absolutely everything. You know, life still happens. I still have my mental health problems. I have to deal with them sober now, and which means I can deal with them properly, and they're not numbed, or which is the big part of living life, isn't it? You know, you have to deal with emotions, and you're not numbing the emotion. And just the ability to step back and go, this feels really bad for me right now, but I've got to sit with it and work through it. One thing for me that helps is sharing about it a lot. So, so that really helps. But the access to therapy that the foundation has given me, it's been a lifesaver, literally, because I was at that rock bottom of suicide that I needed the help again, albeit that I was sober. So I still needed that help. Yeah.
And
huge help.
that's it's awesome to hear as well that it works. And for anyone watching this, I think if it's a case of wanting to reach out to have a chat about your sobriety journey, if you want to start on your if you think you have got an issue with alcohol, I would personally, I'm sure Tom would be more than happy to have a chat with you. We also work with 5 or 6 addiction specialist counsellors now across not just the East Midlands where we're based, but also nationally for remote sessions. So anyone at all, we have funding available and would be more than happy to help you on that journey. So please do reach out. Tom, I could talk to you all day about all things alcoholism. I think we just scratched the surface on relapse in there, which I think is a whole other discussion and something we could fill another hour with. Just want to end with, if you could give one piece of advice to someone starting out at the moment on their alcohol-free journey, what would that be?
Be honest, because if without honesty, you're just fooling yourself, and you won't get sober. If you're sober curious, come into your sober journey with an open mind, and expect to have to work hard at it if it's depending on where you are in your journey. But yeah, just be honest, because without the honesty, you'll never stop looking over your shoulder, and drink will always have its hold over you. But honesty really is the key to any of it, I think, would be my biggest advice.
I couldn't agree more. For me, it was the honesty with yourself, and also the accountability of making other people aware, explaining your situation, and then being just accountable to yourself and to others for going on the journey. Tom, again, I can't thank you enough for your time. It's been great to talk to you. We'll certainly do another one, and we'll explore relapses and everything that goes with it. But for now, thanks for your time. It's been great.
No worries. I'll see you on another hike soon, and keep coming back.
Yeah, keep coming back. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.